The long-awaited return of Young Thug is finally here after dealing with the Rico situation and being in jail for close to 2 years now. He's finally about to drop his first project since coming home, yet I would be lying if I didn't say I have a decent amount of concerns when it comes to this album. Young Thug is one of my favorite rappers and seems to be one of the more universally liked rappers, as we saw by the support he got while he was in jail. But things have changed since Young Thug first went to jail, and this album might prove to be one of the biggest challenges of Young Thug's career. Don't get it confused, I still am a Thug fan and supporter and have been really since the beginning, back when he was considered like a joke, back when people used to make jokes like, oh, Bill Gates offered Young Thug $9 million to stop making music. Like back when he was a laughing stock, I was supporting him back then.
Bill Gates said he'll offer you $9 million to stop making music. You ever thought about taking him up on his offer? What you got to say to Bill Gates?
Yeah, fuck you, please.
And I still do believe in Thug and his creation ability. I just think that the game that he now plays has turned its difficulty up from pro to Hall of Fame. What's good, YouTube? It's Justice I Used to Be Pay, and today we're back with another video. In this video, we're going to be talking about Young Thug and the possible issues that he's going to face with this new album. But before I get into that, make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. The first and biggest challenge that Thug faces with this new album is still his legal issues. Yes, he's no longer in jail, but there are still heavy restrictions on what he can and can't do. He's not out here just scot-free, just do whatever. And this includes in his music. Now, obviously, being out of jail is better than being in jail regardless, but he has to be on his very best behavior at all times, or he's going to prison for a very long time. Like, the man damn near can't even fart out of line without having to risk going to prison. About a month ago, a judge declined a prosecutor's request to revoke his probation over him tweeting a picture of an investigator in the district attorney's office, calling the investigator the biggest liar in the DA's office. Now, nothing came as a result of that, but still, something as simple as a tweet they didn't like could have resulted in him going to prison. So you know they'll be watching this album like a hawk. The biggest concern is the anti-gang and anti-violence restrictions that he must adhere to. And we all know that that was a pretty big part of Young Thug's music before he went to jail. Now, I'm not saying that Young Thug can't create music without gang or violence themes throughout his music and throughout his lyrics, but I will say that sometimes law enforcement doesn't really play fair, and they might try to connect dots when really there isn't anything to connect. And I'm already nervous about this when it comes to just the name of the album in general, which is U.I. Scooty. U.I. Scooty is a red supergiant star in space. A red supergiant star. Now, maybe Young Thug is just a fan of space and he's a fan of astrology, but we're already getting off to a pretty shaky start in terms of kind of walking that line. When it comes to law enforcement, they aren't typically known for playing fair, and I wonder if it will affect the type of features that Thug is allowed to have. Now, I'm sure he's checking with legal counsel all the time, but still, you never know. If they try to identify one of the features as a little too violent or one of the features themselves as a gang member, that might hurt him. There are just a lot of questions to be asked when it comes to what he can and can't do, and honestly, what somebody else can and can't do on his tracks. Now, if I were in his team, I'd say let's just stay away from a whole bunch of features in general. We can have like Drake, and that's about it. But even Drake might be too gangster for this out. At this point, you know, certain corners of the internet are saying that Drake is getting people whacked. So maybe Drake himself might even be a little too gangster for this out. As much as the possible legal fallout from this album is a huge hill to climb, I do believe that Thug, with the help of his exceptional legal team, should be able to navigate the water safely and not have to face any possible repercussions. However, that's not my only concern when it comes to this album. The state of rap as a whole has completely changed since Young Thug went to jail and now has came out. The guys that had a stronghold over rap when Thug first went to jail no longer have that sort of control. Lil Baby is no longer the hottest guy and the bona fide next big thing who might be the #1 rapper in the world one day to surpass Drake in popularity. He's lost a lot of his heat over the last few years or so. Lil Durk is in jail, and his last album wasn't dropped to a ton of fanfare. And people are sick and tired of the government-mandated 21 Savage and Travis Scott features on every single album. Future's still doing great. I'm not gonna lie. Future might be doing better numbers than he's ever done at any point in his career, but Future's an anomaly. You know, he's one of the greatest of all time and should be respected as such. Future is the exception to the rule. He's not, you know, So that was probably a bad example, but still. One take that I've always had about Young Thug is that despite all the love he gets shown online and how much people call him influential and all that, he gets shown a lot of fake love. And what I mean by this is that he's never really done the numbers that his peers do. Like, Young Thug is one of those guys where everyone's talking about him online, free slime, free thug. You see these posts showing him all this love, but it's like these people aren't really listening to his music. You don't see that love reflected in his numbers, especially when in the group that he's classed with, he doesn't have the numbers that they have. His highest point selling in the first week is 130K with So Much Fun. Now, first week numbers aren't like a perfect metric. It's not the perfect metric to describe your size and how popular you are and how big. It's not, but it's a simple concept that can give you like a surface level understanding of popularity that everyone can kind of wrap their minds around. So 130K, while that is a great number and it's impressive, it's nothing to sneeze at. It's nowhere near the peaks of people who are considered his peers. Young Thug's never done the numbers that Future does. He's even been surpassed by his proteges like a Lil Baby or a Gunna in terms of peak numbers. Even people like Cardi and Uzi have dwarfed Young Thug's biggest numbers at different points of their careers. So there is a chance of a bit of disappointment when it comes to the numbers, and I know that the hype of an artist coming out of jail and dropping their first album is something that people fantasize and talk about, but I think that that hype is a bit overrated, to be honest. It's very hit or miss with the payoff, as some guys come out with the world at their feet like Meek Mill, while some come out and the hype dissipates very quickly like Bobby Shmurda. For as much as people are going to be excited about a new Young Thug album, there's also going to be a ton of expectations. And I know it hasn't been that long since Thug dropped an album, since he did drop Business is Business while he was behind bars, but there's just a different level of buzz when you're out of jail. And if this album doesn't hit the way people expect it to, he might even end up a victim of his own meme. The landscape of rap has changed so much. Guys like Ken Carson and Yeet are no longer underground guys fighting to establish themselves. They're here. Playboi Carti is one of the hottest in the game, with the only person hotter than him right now really being Kendrick. Also, not to mention, Thug missed the rap civil war that took place last year, and some of his collaborators have, to put it in colloquial terms, broke up. Drake, Future, Travis, Metro, we don't really know where these guys stand. And obviously, the soured relationship between Thug himself and Gunna. When Thug was locked up, the whole game was beefing behind Drake and Kendrick. People were talking about Thug like he was the Avatar coming home to save the rap game and bring peace to the world, and maybe he is that, but the rap game is starting to shift into a new era, and I want to see if Young Thug adjusts to what's coming in the future, as Thug has been seen as an innovator. Thug is always one to have his ear to the little guys that are going to create the pathways for the future. He was pretty early on Yeet and some of the other guys coming up. And I do believe in Young Thug's ability to adapt, as he's been one of the lead artists over the last 10 years or so when it comes to creative vision. And this album should exist as proof as to why he should be classed into a group with a guy like Future, as people who will transcend eras and be consistently relevant even longer than some of their proteges or the people that they ushered into the game long after they were already established. The time for a new era is now, and I would be very surprised if Young Thug's album doesn't reflect that and is just the same old, same old. We've seen Thug expand himself creatively in so many different ways throughout the years to varying levels of success. With this next album, it won't shock me at all if it stands out as different from the typical stuff that his counterparts have been dropping, and people start trying to follow him and mimic what he's doing as they try to find a new wave to hop on, because fans have started to kind of get sick of some of that ATL trap sound that's become a little bit monotonous over the last 10 years or so. But regardless, if you made it this far, I greatly appreciate you. Make sure you leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. Let me know how you feel about this video, and let me know, do you think that this next album for Thug is going to be a home run, or do you think it's going to be slightly underwhelming? But regardless, if you made it this far, I greatly appreciate you. Again, leave a like, comment, subscribe, do all those things. It helps me out a ton. I go by the name of Pay. Peace.